Okay, Coon-Shrimp. Kind of a long-standing passion of mine. I've been curing them for a number of years, changed my recipe around a whole bunch, have written multiple how-tos with potskis, several videos, and finally settled on a recipe that I rely on. And throughout the Northwest, a lot of other folks use it. A bunch of my guides, buddy, use the recipe. You can either buy pre-cured, or out of the refrigerator cured shrimp. That's fine. Or you can buy, like here at Sportco and other stores, they sell a 2-pound box of uncured Coon-Shrimp, pink shrimp. Okay, they're blanched and they're flash frozen, so they're ready to cure. And really, all you're doing in that recipe, if you look it up on potskis or find me out there somewhere and you follow those recipe steps. Now, there's a number of ingredients, but that being said, when you get done, I didn't bring a jar today because I didn't need to. Anyway, those jars of those Coon-Shrimp are basically then pickled. They will last in your bait fridge for years. I've caught Steelhead on my Coon-Shrimp that I cured and they're 4 years old. And I have no reason to lie to you, so I'm just telling you, if you buy a jar and you don't fish it, it's going to last for quite a while in your fridge. But you'd be hard-pressed to get them to last 2, 3, 4 years and still fish. Still be firm, still have color, still have great scent, and fish. So the key on presenting Coon-Shrimp, there's a couple different ways to do it. Under a float is a great option. Okay, you're suspending bait under a float. Now in this case, I typically will fish a single presentation or single bait, just because of what it takes to get Coon-Shrimp to stay on and make sure it's a durable bait that you're fishing. The key also on Coon-Shrimp for winter on Steelhead is the conditions has to be right. Predominantly, it's a summer run fishing bait. Use it for summer run more times than not, and it works really well. What did I mention earlier as far as river conditions right now? Summer lows, summer clarity, summer volume. Fish are kegged up in smaller pieces of water, kegged up in holes if they're holding at all. If you're into an area where they haven't been beat on a whole lot and you can sneak in there and you want to suspend a Coon-Shrimp underneath the float, you're probably going to do pretty well. I fish a double hook setup, and I'll show you both on the bait diver, which is typically the general method of presenting them out of the drift boat. But float fishing works great too. The other thing I do, so this is a double hook setup, a size 1 bait hook and a little number 4 stinger. I put on a clear plastic straw. Been doing this for years. My dad came up with this years ago when we started fishing Coon-Shrimp. A clear plastic straw. And on this one, I got a little easy egg on top of there just as something that grips to just kind of hold everything down on top of the hook. Okay, because this is a vertical presentation. So the way you can do this, you can do single hook, double hook. And I'll show you, put the hook through the carapace on it. You can multi-half hitch your tail. But every time you multi-half hitch the tail on a Coon-Shrimp, it's just one more point of tension pulling on the Coon-Shrimp, okay? I don't want to say they're extremely fragile. If you cure them right, they're pretty durable, but you can get some that are softer than others. And so the less that you wrap the tail, okay, so I got a nice Coon-Shrimp here. I know you guys are having a hard time seeing that, but nice and firm, good color, smells like shrimp anise, all the magic that's in there. You're going to take this and you go from the back tail side towards the head or the carapace, and you're sticking that hook in the meat, and you then curl it around to come out the head. And the stinger hook hangs down right by the very tip of that head. See where that stinger hook's at? Right at the tip. Now, if I didn't have a straw in there, I would multi-wrap that, 2-3 times with half hitches. With that clear straw, I do a single half hitch right behind the eye of the hook. Then I have to collect the little legs behind at the back end here so they're all together. And guess what? I take this clear straw and I just kind of corkscrew it back and forth and it pushes it right down on top of that. It not only straightens that tail out, but it actually holds it in check without all them multi-wraps cutting through the meat. Then I take that little easy egg. So as far as vertical presentation under a float with a Coon-Shrimp, that's how it's going through the water. You see that? Mm-hmm. That, for summer run fishing or gin clear water in winter run, is lights out. Okay? If you want to fish bait for Steelhead, that's a good way to do it. Okay? I'll leave that hooked up here so you guys can come up here and look at it later, eat it, do whatever you want. So that's on that one. The rigging under or off a bait diver. So out of a rod holder, sled, drift boat, pontoon boat. I've done it on my pontoon boat. A little trickier because pontoon boats can tend to be a little squirrely, right, Brian? Bait diver. This time of year with the flows as they are, I'm using just the Brad's medium. It's going to go down 5 to 8 feet. It's just a bill diver. The one thing I do is underneath it you have a dual lock, and I put a bead chain, okay? Because at any time, if the front of that bill is to come in contact with your leader, it's going to cut it. But with that bead chain, I got that protection roll right there. It'll never hit that leader. Won't nick it, won't get into it, okay? So you go ahead and put that there. About a 5-foot leader. Same exact hooks, size 1 and a size 4 stinger, same spread, everything's the same. Straws in place. Sometimes I fish them just like that, just naked. Much like the float. That's all you put out there. No buoyancy, no nothing. They're basically neutral buoyant. They're bouncing down the river. That diver has them moving back and forth. I have literally watched summer steelhead 20 yards downriver at the tail out as I put in, drop into a hole and start putting lines out, and I could see my coon-shrimp out there, and I watched 2 fish break from the tail out and come charging upriver, and one of them grabbed it and took off. Watched it happen. I was like, this is freaking crazy. But it's just how aggressive steelhead can be, okay? Pretty sure they got a whiff of that scent as it came down river, triggered a response. They could see it in that gin clear water. Question?
Yeah, the bead chain, is that a 6 bead?
That one's a...
Or do you care if it's a 4 or a 6?
That's a 5, 1, 2, 3. It depends on manufacturer. These are I think these are the Bomax.
How long you want it? Is that an inch?
Long enough to get past the bill.
All right.
So, it's manufacturer's choice. You got that dual lock in there, and then your bead chain. As long as you're out in front of your lip, you're going to be just fine. So I'm going to rig this the same way. We're going to put that. So really, the cool thing about presenting off a bait diver is in low water too, is if you're nice and stealthy and you drop into the hole, first you're deploying those lines out before the boat ever gets there. The clearer and lower the water, the further out I'm running those things. I'll put them out 50 feet in front of the boat just to make sure I get that, drop it into the hole. The first thing that's getting in that hole is this coon-shrimp. It's out in front of the bait diver. So I get that in the water, let it drop down, let it start pulling into the hole, okay? This thing is basically looking at them, and I honestly believe those little tiny beady eyes piss steelhead off. So when they're looking, because the aggressiveness that they take on these coon shrimp on a bait diver is ridiculous. I mean, it's flat out hammer time. So that thing is pointing down river, looking at them, shaking in their face, and it pisses them off, and they hammer it. So we're going to basically put that on the same exact way. That stinger hook is right out in front, and if you're not running a stinger hook, if you're presenting bait like this, you're going to miss a lot of fish.
What sizes were the hooks again?
Size 1 and a size 4, number 4. Again, so I'll show you. We just take that clear straw, we collect those rear legs on that thing, spin this around. You got to make sure you get it all in. They got the barb on the tail, they got the little legs and everything. You want to make sure you get it nice and tight in there, see? And this one here, I just happened to put on a little extra attractability. We got a couple beads and a little smile blade on there just for some flutter, just a little flash. You can run that. I got rigs up here tied with spinning glows. Again, sometimes I fish them naked, but Mylar wing spinning glow, little smile blade, something like that. Just something, a little extra buoyancy if you need it. But coon shrimp on a bait diver for steelhead is a definite go-to. Again, for winter run fishing, it's not always in the arsenal based on river conditions. In more seasons than not, I probably don't use it for winter run. But the way our weather's been changing lately, in the conditions that we've had, it's something that I started doing more.